Good day, listeners. You've tuned in to More Than a Funeral, Voices of the Red River Valley, powered by Corsmo Funeral and Cremation Service right here in Moorhead, Minnesota. My name is Tom, and I'm going to be your host today. And whether you are listening on your computer, maybe your phone, car, any other kind of device, and possibly even your tractor or combine, we welcome you here to today's episode. We all know there are so many funeral-related podcasts of interest dealing with so many various issues, but our focus is going to be on the personal aspect of relationships and the multitude of interesting people and organizations that like to call the Red River Valley their home. And on occasion, we might push the edge a little bit, discuss some of those controversial issues. We all know what we're talking about. Red Jell-O. Is it appropriate to serve at church potlucks anymore, or is it a taboo subject? And there's so many other things such as hot dish, casserole. What's the difference between the two anyway? So, we invite you to sit back for a few minutes, grab yourself a blistering hot cup of Lutheran Church coffee, and enjoy the conversation. We are glad you stopped by to listen. Well, good morning, listeners. You have tuned in to episode number 10 of More Than a Funeral, Voices of the Red River Valley, and I'm still your host, Tom Pence. This morning, we are recording in, I think it's the end of July. I'm sitting here with Pastor Taylor Wilson, and who's become a friend of ours over the years, and I'm going to continue just to refer to him as Taylor. But Pastor Taylor is presently according to the website anyway, the pastor of worship and mission at the Lutheran Church of the Good Shepherd right here in Moorhead, Minnesota. But he's also got kind of a side hustle. That's not really a great way of saying it, but a lot of people will know that is. He's expanded his talents into some music, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on as well, too. So welcome, Taylor.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Tell us just a little bit for starters, what you want to tell us, but I did a little bit of research, a little stalking on some Facebook and on your website too, but I really don't know, excuse me, I really don't know, where you're from. I kind of pick up when you went to start studying some youth development at North Central, but tell me a little bit about where you're from and what high school and things like that. Again, whatever you want to divulge.
Absolutely. So I grew up in the Twin Cities. I always like to say I grew up in the Target and Home Depot parking lot in Richfield. If you picture right by the Mall of America, really, Cedar Avenue, 66th Street, up until about kindergarten, I lived in a small rambler there that shook every single day that the airplanes would fly over, which was every day on the hour. Yeah. And so the airport bought out our neighborhood because it was realistically damaging houses and the like. And so we moved and they ended up selling our neighborhood, and then Target and Home Depot built. So I always like to say that's where I grew up, right there. But moved to Apple Valley, went to Apple Valley High School, and my folks are still down there now. Good place to grow up. Good place to be raised and really experience kind of what reminds me of Moorhead now. 40,000 people, a lot of opportunities, things to do, too many things to do, really, which was really exciting for me as a kid. But yeah, grew up in Apple Valley and have lived in Minnesota my entire life. Really, moving up here was the biggest move I've done, and we've been here for 9 years now.
Have you been to Bismarck?
No, I've been to Bismarck. It's a drive.
It is. I'm from Northwest North Dakota, and oftentimes people that come to Fargo have never been beyond Valley City or Jamestown.
Sure.
There's a whole new state out there for you.
Oh, why not?
And reason's the reason. Absolutely. But so the phrase pastor's kid, are you a pastor's kid?
No.
Kind of go into the ministry?
Not at all. In fact, I'm what I like to call a checklist Lutheran. So my parents had me baptized, check.
Oh.
They had me confirmed, check. And then I was done. Okay. I was done with church. My folks didn't go to church very often when I was a kid. They kind of, I think, modeled what their parents had modeled for them,
I agree.
which was, I think this is a good thing
Yeah.
for our kids, but I'm not even going to say it wasn't important for them, but I think that, my dad specifically worked 70 hours a week at least.
Wow.
By the weekend, he just needed a day just to be. And so I sometimes tell a story. Actually, I told the story one time in the sermon at Good Shepherd with my parents present, and I hadn't even thought about the fact that they were present. And
You knew it.
man, daylight savings time. If you picture my parents going and dropping me and my sister off in the parking lot at the beginning of the service, they thought, but it was actually the end. Full parking lot, the whole bit, and then going out to breakfast. This is before cell phones, which is a wild thought to begin with. But there I am sitting out in the church parking lot on the bench waiting for my parents to come. Everybody left. The pastor left. I mean, it was empty parking lot. I don't know if that's traumatic or not, but it was definitely a snapshot of my childhood when it came to faith. So definitely not a PK. I think I was always interested in faith and spirituality. I didn't always have the right words for it. Oftentimes, I didn't have the right way of doing it, depending on what church you were going to. They kind of had their strict, this is what we do.
Right.
Well, that's not what I want to do.
Right.
And so, very much was kind of, I'd go to youth groups with friends that would invite me, stuff like that.
Right. So, when did you feel the call, if you want to refer to it that way, excuse me, that you felt you wanted to pursue? And like many, I'll just use me as an example. It was a process.
Sure.
I didn't wake up and see a bright light and say, I'm going to go into funeral service. Some people do, and maybe you did, but how did you kind of progress into knowing you wanted to go into the ministry? And maybe it was a two-step up, one step back, but
Sure.
Can you elaborate a little on that?
So the wild thing for me was I loved sports. I was pretty good at sports, and I wasn't going to get scholarships anywhere, but had an opportunity to play basketball and went to a Christian college.
Okay.
Initially was going to be going to Ridgewater, a JUCO, junior college, to play basketball and football and kind of just figure out what was to come. I was going to live with my grandma, who at the time we were realizing had Alzheimer's. And so that wasn't going to happen anymore. She thought that I was coming in to spy on her. And, I was very paranoid, understandably, with the disease. But all of a sudden, last minute, I'm trying to figure out, where am I going to go to school? Like, I didn't want to move to Wilmer and not live with my grandma.
So is this about your senior year?
Yeah, right after I graduated.
Okay.
I mean, I that was the plan.
Okay.
And that summer, basically, you're running out of options, right? You're either going to go to the local community college. I didn't feel like paying rent and taking on a lot of debt, and yet that's exactly what I did.
Or working for 7-Eleven.
Yeah, right. So I moved to Rochester and went to this really small Christian college called Crossroads, and played on the basketball team there. We got to play NCAA Division II schools. It was really kind of a wild experience. Those schools, I always said it was kind of a David versus Goliath thing. Absolutely. And that's really how it played out. But
humbling.
Very humbling. It was a cool experience, though.
Right.
But I went there for 1 year. And if you know much about transfer credits, all of a sudden I had probably $18,000 worth of credits that were not useful at state schools or community colleges or anything like that. So all of a sudden you have a limited kind of avenue to pursue. You either keep going to the same school or you look for another school to transfer to. North Central was that school for me. They accepted most of the credits, and it was kind of that opportunity for me to continue to play basketball. It's an NCAA D3 school, and that was a great experience too. But when I went there, ministry wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do. I was initially a business major, and the reason for that was I wanted to make money. And I came from a middle class at best upbringing. And so the idea of going to college, I was the first person in my immediate family to go to a 4-year college. That meant something, but it really was just like I wanted to succeed. I wanted to feel like I had something to show. And throughout my time, you kind of start to feel that nudge a bit, like, hey, I think that I would be good at this. I think that this is what I'm being called to.
Yep.
The hard part was you had a lot of folks there that had grown up in the faith, many of which were pretty sheltered and kind of that was their upbringing. For me, it wasn't. I was kind of the renegade outsider coming in a little bit. That's how it felt.
Yeah.
I didn't believe all the right things. I asked too many questions. I was confrontational.
Who was one of those guys?
Yeah, it's one of those guys. And really, it was not to be mean or rude. I was curious, and also be maybe later to life, as far as not being a kid that's really proclaiming belief, but being somebody in your 20s going, okay, well, if I'm going to commit to this, what am I committing to? Like asking those questions.
Yeah.
I think that maybe some of the professors, some of the classmates weren't used to that. They just assumed that everybody in the room believed all the same things.
It said you studied youth development.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so
it's not your traditional ministry. You can
Sure.
stand up behind a pulpit and preach.
Youth development for me was kind of a middle of the road way of being able to take some youth ministry courses, which I was interested in.
Because you were a youth.
Yeah, not just outside of it, but also then we had like adolescent psychology. Again, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So you try to find a general enough degree that can get you some good experiences that'll lead you to an internship that can hopefully open the door.
It wouldn't be a waste of credits.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got the youth development degree, and I actually ended up interning at a Bible camp. At the time, I thought, hey, actually, one of the most impactful places, even more than the church, for me was going to camp as a kid. Oh. And I kind of felt that tug of, hey, maybe I'm not cut out to be in full-time ministry in the sense of being at a church, on staff. But what is that kind of partner ministry that I could make an impact in? And I had worked at Bible camp for a couple summers, and so that was kind of maybe on my mind as well. But I ended up interning at the camp that I went to as a kid, Lake Wapagasset Bible Camp, Camp Wapo, in Amory, Wisconsin.
Okay.
And
Wapo.
It was a great experience. But from there, I love to tell the story if you don't mind.
No. Let me interject one thing here. Ask a question. I don't want to interrupt. But music, your guitar has had to have been a part of this whole process.
Yeah.
When you think Bible camp, you just think a guy standing up with a guitar leading a group of kids, and I can see that. But
very much so.
Please continue.
In fact, that was one of the things that rubbed me the wrong way about the Lutheran Church, which is the church I serve in today.
Right. Funny how that works.
But growing up, it's like you had such a powerful impact, a powerful experience rather at Bible camp with these folks with their guitars and they're singing songs that are kind of simple. Yeah. And then you'd come back and they'd be like, nope, just the organ. No, we're not doing that. Put that guitar away. Or maybe one time a year on Camp Sunday, where we got to do one song.
Sure.
So we...
To rock the boat.
Yeah, very much so. Some folks didn't come that day.
Right.
But we would have those types of experiences that I think that kind of filled my cup quite a bit. And so going back to that camp just kind of made sense. But it was actually, if you've never worked at camp, you won't fully understand it, but you basically are paid like 17 cents an hour. Like if you do the math, it's wild how it's even legal.
I
love camp. Yeah. You basically are given room and board, right. But you work from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., but you also are in the cabin with the kids. So you're actually just working 24 hours a day.
Sure, paid camp.
5 or 6 days a week. But I loved it. It was, I wouldn't trade those summers for anything, honestly. And so I think that kind of drove me to want to be a director at a camp because I wanted to make more money.
So is this the story you were going to tell before I interrupted?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't want to forget that. So, okay.
No, so we very much, us camp counselors, I think that folks are doing all sorts of things after doing that. I think it's an impactful thing. I tell students at the church today, if you can, do it for a summer. It'll change your life. That was my hope. I hoped that I was going to become a camp director, and it was one of those afternoons where I had my 1 hour off, and I went and took a nap, and I might have taken an hour and a half nap. So I woke up a little bit late and came into the dining hall, and every seat except for one is filled. And so I kind of sheepishly get my plate, go and sit down at a table with people I don't know. And there was a pastor at the table, Pastor Stephanie, and we strike up conversation. And at the end of the week, she said, I really think that you should apply to be our youth and family minister. And at the time, I really hadn't been thinking about working at the church. I had really been thinking about working at camps. But she said, I think that you have the gift for it, the call. And the training that I was getting at North Central actually prepared me for it with the youth development. And it actually seemed like a pretty easy transition. So for 6 years, I ended up working at a church with Pastor Stephanie. And she became a mentor for me, and actually passed away here a couple years ago, which was really hard for me. But she officiated the wedding of my wife and I. And it was... She became a friend that also really spoke a lot of encouragement and truth. From there, she said, you should go to seminary. You should become a pastor. And I kept thinking, no way.
She was the encourager.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think that I had the gifts to do certain roles.
Right.
I thought that I could be the guy with the guitar. I could be the guy with the faux hawk relating to the teenagers, with some tattoos. I mean, I was probably pretty edgy for that church, honestly.
Right.
At the time. Look a lot more normal these days, but it was kind of a finding yourself part of my life. Absolutely.
Right. So then let's move on to your Luther Seminary days, because that, I'm assuming, is the next process.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing for me is there's a season in between that kind of overlaps with youth ministry and.
I noticed there's a few years here in your bio.
Yeah. So. While I'm doing seminary, I had an opportunity to work with my wife at a church in the Twin Cities. But leading up to that, I was writing and performing music. So as an original kind of singer-songwriter, as much as I could on the weekends, going and doing camps and conferences and festivals, that was something I was doing. And I got booked for this Lutheran youth worker event called the Extravaganza. And I ended up having a lunch. I was invited by a mutual friend, and Julie, my now wife, happened to be at the event as well, and was at the lunch. And so I was living in Minneapolis. She was living in New York City and serving at church out there. And, we hit it off. Long before we became used to doing FaceTime and Zooms and things, we were very much doing that from a distance and getting to know each other, and somehow talked her into moving back to Minnesota. She's from Moorhead originally,
okay.
But she ends up getting hired at a church in Maple Grove, and while we're there, she tells me that she thinks I should go to seminary. The interesting thing is she had also told me when we were kind of not quite dating that she never wanted to marry a pastor. So it's like, wait a second.
We got to clarify.
What do we got going on here? Are you breaking up with me? But we were able to work together for 4 years down there while I was doing my seminary and my internship. And from there that led to this now chapter up here in Moorhead. But I was able to be kind of a concurrent student where I was taking classes and working at the church, and some of them were online, some was in person. But I spent a lot of time on 694, driving back and forth from St. Paul to Maple Grove, and it was a lot, but a good experience overall.
Good. You graduated from seminary in 2016, is that right?
Yeah.
And then came right up to Moorhead.
Came up to Moorhead.
That had to have been kind of interesting, because you came on with Lutheran Church of the Good Shepherd.
Yep.
To say Good Shepherd in Moorhead. She was from Moorhead. Julie was from Moorhead. So when you came up here, she probably knew a lot of people that she introduced you to.
It's wild. She grew up at Trinity, another church here in town. Okay. And her family was super involved there. Yeah. Like when we moved here, my father-in-law was on the church council there. So like I already knew some of the staff just from a different lens. We got married, and her mom died just a couple months after we were married, which was really hard, very difficult. Which was part of the draw for us to come back to Moorhead. Her family is still here, and very much we wanted to be a part of that life. But also moving up here, it was kind of crazy because of the relationships that she had. I would go to Target, and folks would come up and say, "Hello, Taylor." And even my parishioners don't always call me Pastor Taylor; they just call me Taylor. Right. But it's like a moment of panic, right? You're walking down the aisle, and somebody says, "Hi, Taylor." Is that one of my members? Is it somebody that was at my wedding? Were they at my mother-in-law's funeral? Like, what's the connection here? They probably know my wife. They might actually know me.
Name tag on.
It was a kind of wild for me because I really didn't know anybody here, and she very much. There's something about. She went to Concordia. There's a lot of Concordia grads that stick around. There's a lot of Moorhead High School grads that move back, and. We see it at church all the time, but certainly she's rekindled a lot of those friendships from back when, just simply by residing here again.
So your current title, and I could be wrong, is Pastor of Worship and Mission. At Good Shepherd. However, and there's other pastors on staff there too, Mary, Maggie. You all have different titles, quote unquote, but I don't really like titles because a lot of what you do overlaps.
Sure.
I mean, since this is a funeral home podcast, you've conducted funerals, Mary has, Maggie has, others have, and you kind of fill others' shoes too. But just tell me a little bit about your role at Good Shepherd.
Well, I've been here for 9 years now as a pastor. Right. Most people for their first call, they call it first call, 2 years, 3 years maybe. And so the bishop keeps wondering, why don't you want to take a call to be a senior pastor?
And some go 35 years.
Some go 35. Some overstay their welcome. I hope not to do that, but I love it. And that's part of the reason. Like, I get to work with my wife as well. So Julie's on staff. She's a deacon in our church, but she does the kids ministry. And she thrives in her role here. We get to partner in ministry. We've got 2 kids. We've got a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old. I love having them in the church. I love that they want to go. I can't imagine us going in 2 different directions on Sunday, specifically, stuff like that. But we get to live into our roles, but like you mentioned, it is more than that. I've had 3 different job titles since I've been there. I've done a lot of the different ministry areas kind of as a supervisor or director. For me, within my title right now, I get to plan worship. So the traditional services, I pick all the music, I schedule the accompanist, I tie everything in with the themes. Like I enjoy that. And then for the contemporary services, I'm the band leader. I schedule the band, I pick the music, I rehearse the group. So again, it keeps kind of harkening back to that Bible camp experience.
Exactly. With
the guitar and really growing faith. Me being a singer-songwriter where I was writing Christian music and getting to play at festivals and conferences, like that very much led me to meet my wife. It was a season of life where I needed to have my cup filled as well. And I didn't always feel comfortable talking about faith or writing or praying rather. Mm-hmm. But I found that writing things down helped me with that. But then also there was kind of an artistic piece to it, again, writing music. And so now, at Good Shepherd, I get to lead others in worship. I get to mentor musicians and see them grow, which is a lot of fun. We've got about 50 people that are in our band. We've got almost 40 people in the choir. We've got a bell choir. There's a ton of really great musicians at Good Shepherd. The bell choir,
the Lutheran bell choir.
Yeah.
Those are actually very pretty.
They're incredibly pretty. They don't want me ringing the bells, I'll tell you that much, but They do a great job.
Slow down, right?
Yeah. The funny thing is, there are some other folks that have a similar position to me that they're classically trained. Yeah. They have all the theory down. I'm a self-taught musician. Okay. Again, I learned 3 or 4 chords while I was working at camp, and you go from there. And it's probably simplified, maybe even scoffed at sometimes, but I love it.
What I'm hearing here, and I can speak for myself and my own personal experience, we have a little bit of an age difference, but you can look back at your path and see the Holy Spirit opening doors, closing doors.
Sure.
I mean, talking about going to camp, and then Julie saying, let's get into a relationship, but I don't want to marry a minister. And you can look back, but it takes time to be able to see how that works. I know at Good Shepherd, we have a great, at Corsmo here, we have a great relationship with Good Shepherd. At least we think so.
Absolutely.
I shouldn't check with the others. But, I mean, Pastor Mary and Maggie are great. Linda is a workhorse down there. She's just our go-to person. Kyle has helped us immensely in the music area. And Dennis, of course, I've known Dennis, I think is in your finance area.
Yeah.
I've known Dennis probably since I came here over 30 years ago, and of course Joan and Tom. It's amazing though, and I can say this honestly, I mean the facilities are top notch. They're all wheelchair, handicapped, accessible, friendly, and I can't think of a single person there that I would avoid, to put it that way. When we come there, we're greeted, we're welcomed. And nobody is a complainer that I can see. I mean, they're always incredibly helpful. And that's welcoming for somebody who's looking for a church or trying to come back into their faith if they've fallen away a little bit too. So I just appreciate Good Shepherd and everybody down there. Do you play other instruments other than guitar?
I play...
Do you attempt to?
I attempt a lot. Bass guitar was my first instrument.
Okay.
And that was one that I started playing in high school. Had a good friend that wrote music and kind of took me under his wing, Mike Fessler, and we had a band called 3 Days Till Sunrise. We wrote Christian rock music, and it was we look back and we wish that we had spent more money on quality recordings, because we had some decent music.
Yeah.
But Mike wanted to make a go at it. He actually is an author now, writes Christian books, and was a college wrestler, and so he likes to talk about faith and wrestling. And so he's a kind of well sought out speaker now, but doesn't do as much music these days. But I was in college. He had hit pause for a little bit and was trying to do the music thing, and so that part didn't work out. But still a very good friend of mine. But yeah, I played bass, and then from there, again, Bible camp. You pick up a few chords on the guitar. You got to work through the calluses because those are different calluses. During the pandemic, I started playing more electric guitar as we needed. We had a lot of acoustic players, but didn't have very many electric, and we were doing a lot of recordings there. And I've always joked I'm a semi-professional steering wheel drummer. So
yes.
if you got a good tune, I will find the groove on my steering wheel.
Yep.
Well, working in youth ministry, you have a youth band. For some reason, drummers wouldn't always show up, and you'd have the other musicians and stuff. So if you can play a 4/4 beat, you can start there and build. I started playing drums when I was in college, and so I'm still kind of at Good Shepherd, I'm the backup drummer.
Right.
Kyle is actually a phenomenal drummer.
Okay.
Our worship arts, creative arts guy. But so I try to have him in if I can. But if not, you wouldn't be surprised to see me drumming a little bit.
No.
I don't play keys. Make my kids take piano lessons. I didn't as a kid, so maybe I'm never too late to learn that. But
let's kind of transition here, shift gears, whatever cliche you want to use, and talk a little bit about colder weather. You obviously have a musical background, a definite interest in music, but you and Taylor, is it Taylor Rodriguez?
Taylor Rodriguez,
two Taylors, have started I'll just put it out there, but you can expand on it. I'll call it acoustic type of a duo. I don't want to call it folk music because, again, I don't like labels. I don't like stereotypes. But colder weather is an interesting outcropping or outgrowth, whatever, of your music scene. And it's kind of neat because I appreciate people who aren't just stuck doing one thing all of their life. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what's great. But I can see where you've got other energies. And so colder weather, tell us a little bit about colder weather, the history of it with Taylor Rodriguez, and we'll talk a little bit about that.
So Taylor and I met. He used to be a program director at a Bible camp that our kids went to He was a youth director here in town at another Lutheran church.
Wow.
And as those kind of chapters of his story ended, he ended up at Good Shepherd in our pews, right? He was looking for a new church to be a part of. And I knew him as a guitar player. In fact, I can look back and see some of our pandemic worship videos that we made where I'm drumming and he's playing acoustic guitar in the band. Okay. And when John Dahl, former worship leader at Good Shepherd for like 10 years, took a different job and left, it was right before fall kickoff and right kind of coming out of distance worship, we'll say, at Good Shepherd. Yeah. And so all of a sudden we're trying to kind of get back to normal, and yet our normal was changing because we didn't have kind of the person that had been the go-to. Yeah. I had proposed to Pastor Mary, hey, I really would like to take this on. And we had more conversation about it and kind of agreed for at least a couple months. Let's get through the rest of this year and we'll look at maybe hiring somebody. Well, thankfully, I'm still doing that position now 3 years later. But through it, Taylor had asked one day, hey, could I come play drums? And I was kind of a little timid because I'm like, when you have somebody that's good, it's great. Yeah. It is great. If they are less, well, I don't want to say less talented, but if they haven't played in a long time, or if it is just simply, a hobby, you're not always sure what you're going to get. And so I invited him to come join me just for like a jam session at the church. And I started on my first chord, and he does a drum fill in. And I kind of had that, whoa, like, seriously? Why didn't you tell us 2 years ago that you played drums? Right. And he had just kind of, again, picked it up through the years, but he listens to songs, he learns the patterns, he's a very good drummer, self-taught as well. Cool. And kind of from there, he's become an important part of what we do at Good Shepherd. He's one of our drummers. We've got a number of really good drummers. Yeah. But he's been one that has kind of taken over most Sunday services at Good Shepherd. And so I've become a good friend of his. We've been making music in the church for the last few years now. But we had kind of both been itching to perform. And I always want to be real clear with folks. Like when I'm doing worship at church, we're not performing. Right. We're leading others in worship. And some might still think it looks like a performance. Yeah, well, the choir rehearses, the organist practices, we're all trying to hone our craft and provide something quality, but also honoring to God. Yep. For this particular outlet, I had realized after the last 3 years that I really don't have a hobby, sure. An outlet outside of work that I can kind of focus my time on. Music had always been that. Right. And so when I wasn't doing music, as a full-time part of my job at Good Shepherd specifically, it still felt like a hobby. When I started doing it weekly, all of a sudden when I pick up a guitar at home, I'm playing a church song. It always felt like it was somehow still related to work. Sure. There wasn't that kind of work-life balance.
And quilting and crafting and
sure.
ceramics not really getting your attention.
Yeah, well, and there's other ones like brewery tours and things that are fun, but right. You also don't want to be doing that all the time either. There's maybe some negatives that can come along with that. So you're trying to find like a healthy outlet, right? Right. We've done events like Beer and Hymns here in the community, which is another really fun thing that Good Shepherd does to meet people where they're at. We've partnered with a number of places, but Murphy's Pub is one where we tend to host a handful throughout the year. And I love it. The hard part was then people would start asking me, hey, would you come play at this event? Would you do this? Mm-hmm. You've got a great band. Mm-hmm. Could we do something? And I'd say, well, are you hoping that we'll do like church music? And the look on their face was always, no. Okay, so what are you looking for?
Right, tell me what you say.
And it really was, well, what songs do you want to play? Because I have played festivals. I have played coffee shops. Right. I've played in settings where people know my music, and a lot of settings where they don't. And those were still very powerful chapters of my life, but there's something really life-giving of having a room full of people singing along with you. And I think that maybe that is why I enjoy worship leading, because I'm helping others connect with God with our voices.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but I would not consider that a performance, quote unquote.
No.
If they're participating, it's
full participation.
Worship.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think that's why I enjoy that so much, because in the church setting, you're getting to sing along with others and do it. You go and you do even like the Christian music I was writing in a non-church setting. That's a performance.
Exactly.
But if they don't know the music, they're really just consumers that are staring at you and hopefully clapping at the end.
Yeah. Well, I had the pleasure of catching you guys at Swing Barrel here in town, and I did not know what to expect.
Sure.
I said, I just would like a cold beer, and I'm going to go listen to you guys. I knew you were going to be there. But what I really enjoyed was the audience participation.
Sure.
And it wasn't, 99 bottles of beer on the wall type of thing. You were singing, you were singing some Tom Petty and some other things that people knew the words to, and you encouraged them to sing along. It wasn't really a quote unquote performance, like you were talking about a moment ago. I mean, other people sitting at two tables away were doing their best to sing along. Here I was mumbling the words. But it was really cool watching you guys. I really liked Taylor 2.0, Taylor Rodriguez. I really liked his kit, if you want to call it, his drums. I've always liked percussion and drums, but I like that he was using the brushes and not sticks, wailing away, and he just had an assortment of cymbals, and he was sitting on his bass drum, or on the bass.
It's a cajon, kind of a kick drum. It's really cool. There's a cajon snare as well. So again, it is less loud.
Exactly.
So specifically in a setting like that, where it would be overpowering to have an actual drum set.
I noticed you had an iPad or some device, bringing up probably your playlist. But like you said a few minutes ago, Taylor you started and he just basically just jumped in.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything. Maybe he had it, but you guys worked together, so well. What I really kind of also enjoyed was your comment about Freebird. People, you would frequently say, like, what do you folks want to hear? And somebody in the audience is always going to say, Freebird. You do it for $100.
$100.
And no takers yet?
You know what? Pastor Mary, my boss, actually just sent me a text 2 nights ago saying that we had to do Freebird the next time we played. But she wasn't at the event, so she doesn't know that she's going to have to pay me $100.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see if... we'll contact Denny and see if I have to pay taxes on it or not.
And you might have to pass the plate, too.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to fork over 100, but I'll throw in a 10 if the other guys will join me. So, but I noticed you're going to be playing at the Cormorant Lutheran here in a couple of weeks. Cormorant Lutheran Pavilion, I think it says. Maybe you didn't know that, but I trust you did. You play at some private venues too, so
we got a pool party next Thursday.
Really?
Can you believe it? A pool party. I'm excited. We've actually been getting a lot of requests for like private parties. Which I think speaks to what we're doing. Our kind of tagline is playing music we didn't write but wish we did.
Yeah.
And I look at it from the angle of, if you can play, a set list with a bunch of songs that 80% of the room will know, they're probably going to sing along.
Absolutely.
They're probably going to stick around longer. That's good for business, for the venues that we're in. But, again, it's that connection point with song where I think it speaks to people on a much deeper level. And that's why we started doing what we're doing.
Right.
When you have venues that were saying, hey, would you come and play? But they didn't want me to do my original. They didn't want me to do church music. It's like, really what they're looking for is a cover band.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of really good singer-songwriters here locally. Heck, we went to Nashville, and most of the folks that are singer-songwriters are also in cover bands. That's how they pay their bills down there until they hopefully get their big break. Mm-hmm. But they're hustling. They are taking every gig they can. For me, it's trying to find that balance. I'm looking for an outlet. I'm not looking for it to be my full-time gig, not even something every week. But I am looking to have those opportunities to be out in the community, making connections with folks. Again, for you, knew I was playing there, but you didn't know exactly what to expect. I love the fact that, folks can get to know me as, before even knowing that I'm a pastor at the church.
Yep.
Oh, that's that guy that plays in that band that sings the songs I like.
Yep.
It's a cool connection point that you can grow maybe toward having faith conversations, but simply just being in relationship with people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which as a pastor is actually really hard to do. Like you go to a place, and that's why I don't wear,
Right.
I'm a casual Thursday today. I could be wearing my collar right now,
Right.
and I will walk into 20 below here in an hour, and everybody looks at me differently.
Oh yeah.
On Good Friday, have a good day, Father. What?
That's right.
He thinks I'm a Catholic priest.
That's right. Or if you're walking down the aisle at Hornbachers and you come around wearing the collar, it's like, I think I'm going to jump over and
Yeah, and when you tell people, I mean, being single and in ministry, I have friends that are currently there. I remember being young and me trying to meet people, just even friends. But being single, maybe ask somebody out on a date or something. What do you do? Well, I work at a church, and you could just see like
got real quiet.
that Homer Simpson visual just slowly going into the brush behind you. It's like, I think that because people aren't always comfortable talking about their faith, when you have somebody that does it for a living in front of you, it's intimidating. It can make you nervous. Whatever feelings might come, but it's funny.
So colder weather, like you say, it's not a job, but it's a vehicle, if you want to call it that. Could possibly open up other avenues into conversations, and it breaks down the stereotypes.
Sure.
If you want to call it that, yeah. Well, I know colder weather doesn't. I don't believe it has a website, but I know you can find them easily on Facebook. I have. But also, we're going to post some links on our podcast too. But if anybody is interested, excuse me, you can always check Taylor at colderweatherbooking@gmail.com. That's by way of email, but colderweatherbooking@gmail.com. And like I said, I'll put some of these links on our podcast. Let's wind down a little bit talking about your family.
Yeah.
And then we'll just kind of shut her down here. But tell us, you actually have, through the course of this conversation, Julie and your two kids, Natalie and Claire, is that right?
Correct.
9 and
7, yeah. Youngest just turned 7 last week.
Yeah. And it's public, but if you want to see something really cute, go to the Colder Weather Facebook page, and you can see Taylor and the two girls, Taylor and the Swifties, performing a song on there. It's great. One is singing her heart out, and the other one's banging on a box, but good stuff. But man, we've already talked a little bit about your kids and your family too, but also, if people are interested in the church website and finding out some more about Good Shepherd, that is gsmorehead.org, which obviously stands for Good Shepherd Morehead.org. But anyway, Taylor, it's been a great visit. I've known you probably since you've been here, and it's nice to meet people and get to know people outside of that professional setting, whether it's at Swing Barrel or here, or if I see you at the grocery store, at a music festival somewhere. So I appreciate your coming in here. Anything else that you think you just needed to get across to our listeners here? Because we are in about 4 different countries.
Absolutely. And I would just say thank you for the work that you guys do.
Absolutely.
I often think of the interactions that I have, with you guys specifically, have always been super professional. I've always felt like I can be myself. You guys have been really clear in communication with what you need, and we kind of are able to marry that together a little bit, which is nice. But that isn't always going to be the case at every place. And so just being able to have the relationship where it doesn't just need to be for many people one of the most difficult days of their life in losing a loved one, where then both of us are trying our best to come alongside and care for them and provide a service that will meet needs and expectations. But the fact that we can have the relationship, I think back to being at an Oktoberfest event here in town and seeing some of the Corsmo folks there, and just being able to have small talk that still means something. Right. Where there are some folks that probably see me, like you said, at the grocery store, and they turn the other way. There are some folks that might even say, there's the pastor, there's the funeral home people. Like, I'm off the clock. Right. We'll talk to them next week.
Right.
No, like it very much is always fun that I'm welcomed into the fold.
Yeah.
And I very much look forward to continuing the building the relationship with you guys. You're great.
Well, you guys have a great team. I mentioned some of the people there. Whenever we get a phone call and we hear the connection is Good Shepherd, there's a handful of churches that do that we just breathe a little sigh of relief because we know things are going to get done.
Sure.
And they're going to get done right. It's not a micromanaged one-man show over everything. So I appreciate your comments and I appreciate the relationship that we have. So, well, thank you, Taylor, and thank you, folks, for joining us today. And again, this is episode number 10, and we look forward to episode 11. We're not quite sure who that's going to be yet. It's at need basis. So thank you, folks. Enjoy your day, and thanks for listening. You have been listening to More Than a Funeral, Voices of the Red River Valley. And I have been your host, Tom Pence, and I'm one of the funeral directors at Korsmo Funeral and Cremation Service here in Moorhead, Minnesota. The word service has been an intentional part of our name for over 66 years, and we pride ourselves on attention to detail and personal service. Personally, my responsibilities revolve around the advanced planning aspect of our profession, and I enjoy visiting with people as we discuss the many possibilities of a memorable celebration service that will eventually honor a life according to their wishes. And from a practical standpoint, which is getting so very important these days, I help families plan ahead so that the family left behind will not be burdened with a large financial responsibility, therefore allowing them to spend time with their family, remembering their loved one, not having to worry about how to handle the expenses. Asset protection is also a very real issue these days, as many care facilities can cost several $1,000s a month, depending upon the level of care. Korsmo can provide simple and effective ways of protecting those assets, and I welcome the opportunity to visit with you about that. If you enjoyed this podcast and found some value in it, we greatly appreciate your sharing with a friend. And if you have a moment, text somebody right now. Encourage them to give a listen and perhaps follow the podcast personally. We anticipate publishing a new episode on the first day of each month, so check back for interesting guests and topics. And of course, we also welcome your suggestions for future guests and topics of interest as well. So thank you for listening. And if you want more information and actually want some free estimates or just have questions, contact any of the directors at Korsmo Funeral and Cremation Service. Our phone number is 218-233-1533, and our web address is korsmofuneralservice.com. Thanks again for listening, and from all of us at Korsmo, have a great day.